Good evening, everybody. My name is Esther Mushiri from eMentoring Africa. Very, very excited to have you again on this beautiful Tuesday at the Mentors Parlor, where we have none other than our fantastic two, Margaret Kimani and Samuel Kuria. We are excited to have them again, and this time round, as we move from being job seekers to job creators, today we shall be facing our giants, and it's just exciting. Karibu Maggie.
Thank you so much, Esther. Good evening, everyone. And I'm praying and trusting that you're keeping well. Glad to be alive. And to our men in the house, please allow me, before we say a word of prayer, to wish you a belated Father's Day, and even the men, father figures amongst us. So before we start, because God is the source of all wisdom, we would like to start with a word of prayer. And I usually I can pray, but I would love a volunteer if possible.
Okay, I'll go. Is that okay?
Awesome.
Dear God, our Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for dear life itself. We do not take it for granted that each one of us has come to this forum healthy, happy, and in one piece, Lord. We pray for repose of those who have had to leave us because of COVID-19 or other infirmities. But we do thank you for sparing each one of us. We thank you for this forum, which is bringing together brilliant, hungry, happy youth to lie us with the magnificent six. We pray and trust all this in Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Professor Nabutola. And it is my utmost pleasure to be hosting one of the, an amazing entrepreneur, one of our very own, Mr. SK Blue. And tonight, following last week's conversations, we had very, very, very heated conversations, very amazing conversations, getting to know the journey that, SK Blue has been. And actually, it reminded us that nothing is impossible if you put your mind into your game and, change your mindset. So the topic of today was guided, and it was out of a demand. There was a demand last week. We followed, most people were leaning towards this topic, and we thought, why not? And SK has been so kind to come back, to host, to share with us some of the nuggets through this session. And what I'll be doing, perhaps for the benefit of those people who might not have been there last week, the last few sessions, maybe I can introduce myself. My name is Margaret Kimani, very passionate about Africa, and not just Africa, Kenya. I am a banker by profession, but I'm a very different banker because I'm called to impact. So most people usually see me in different places, in the slums, mentoring different places, all over the world. I have mentees all over the world. And for those ones who managed to join us tonight, I am always honored to be mentoring some of you. And some of you, I'm also learning from you. So, learning never ends. So tonight, I want you guys to sit back, relax, and as we learn together. What we'll do tonight, because of the interest of time, I know SK and I were speaking the other day, and Esther, you'll agree. SK's story is too good to be cut short. But tonight, what I'll do, I'll have it more structured in a Q&A. So I'll keep, I'll throw a few questions, and SK will keep going as he shares his story. But more importantly is that we expect you guys, and we are hoping, because we also learn, as we speak to you guys, we learn a lot. So we would want you guys to throw in questions on the chat room so that we keep engaging to make it very interactive. So without any further ado, allow me to introduce Mr. Samuel Kuria. I like calling him SK Blue because that's what people call him, in the streets. SK Blue happens to be the managing director of Gold Avenue Africa. You gotta love the name, yeah? Gold Avenue Africa. This is a private equity firm that builds and, you know, they're all about creating high growth businesses and opportunities with a transformative, you know, impact. And actually, I actually met SK Blue on the radio. So many of you guys that are meeting online, hey, there's always a first. And what attracted me to actually wanting to speak to him and know what his business is all about is because of the transformative impact that he's all about. SK Blue, as you know him now, was not always an entrepreneur. He started his journey as a musician. Some of you know his music. I was laughing the other day when I listened some of the Swahili music he's written. And he's a music and also a TV producer. And he's ventured into entrepreneurship fully, and he's all about creating wealth and transformation in Africa. And he believes in Africa. He believes that Africa can do it. Yeah, we don't need any aid. We don't need any help. So without any further ado, if you are close to, if you're able to clap, or if you're able to, yeah, we do the eco-friendly, you know, clap. Please help me welcome SK Blue. And the first question, SK Blue, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Good to have you tonight. Without any further ado, I want you to take it over, but I would go and ask you a question tonight, yeah? How has your entrepreneurship journey, has it always been, you know, bed of roses, or have you faced any giants so far?
Yeah. An entrepreneur for me has been tough. The journey has been tough because no one really prepares you. There are many theories about an entrepreneur, but when you get on the ground, then you realize that, okay, it's completely different. You're on your own. You're literally out there to survive or die. And whoever gave enterprise the name they gave it, and entrepreneurs the name they gave it was quite kind to give them a nice polished name over something that has nothing to do with polish. So for me, the journey has been ups and downs. They say if all you see is the what, then you will miss it, because the why is the only thing that can keep you doing it. So without a doubt, ups and downs, many. Yes, indeed.
SK, that's a very good intro to the topic, because you know, when we were closing last week, I know this, because last week we were talking about how do you change your mindset and how do you even get started? Because, you know, entrepreneurship, like we keep saying, especially us in the financial industry, we keep saying it's not for the faint-hearted, yeah? But it's a very rewarding journey.
Yeah.
So perhaps you can give us, I'm glad you've confessed that your journey has had a few giants that you've had to face, but I would want to bring it home, closer to home, and perhaps you can give us some of your giants, right? You can give us some examples of some of the giants you've had to face in your journey of entrepreneurship.
Say it again. I just had giants. I lost you.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I was saying, you know, we keep saying that entrepreneurship is not for the, you know, faint-hearted, and right. Maybe to bring it, you know, close home, you can give us some of the examples of what are these giants that, you know, people see Glory now, people see the managing director of Gold Africa, you know, Avenue Africa. Some of the people might not know that there are serious giants that you've had to face. Would you mind sharing some of them and how you even, you know, encountered and, you know, slayed these giants?
Yeah, I definitely have many giants. Probably I can give a sequence of giants. So number one giant was having to, as a young person, at the age of 17, having to choose when my dad, being a pastor, saw me wanting to pursue this thing to do with music. So I had some, at that time I was putting up dreadlocks, this nice young dreadlocks. So I was basically packaging to get into the space. And he told me, if your dream is not worth dying for, then it's not worth living for. You have to make a decision at this stage to live and go pursue your dream. It's if it's worth living for. So leaving home at 17, not knowing exactly where I'm going, was a huge giant, because at that particular time, I just didn't know whether I would survive or not. So that was a big one. Knowing that I'm leaving relative comfort to go and live. Come to think of it, I left relative comfort and now I went to live in a store. So that was a huge giant, because almost every day I was thinking, why don't I just go home? But my dream was worth dying for. So I kept it. So that's one. Number two as well, there are many. There's a time as well we built a business and a portfolio in one of our first businesses. So we built a business. It was a really nice business. So we went on to bring in a few partners into the business. The partners were as well aggressive on it, but we at that particular point hadn't really known much about the integrity of partners. So we went into the business and we did it, but at some point, the partners agreed to go out and put up and give out some resource. So we made a decision as a board together, signed upon it, but we lost the resource. So I remember it was quite early. I think it's like 10 years, 12 years ago. So we lost about 10 million shillings. 10 million shillings 12 years ago was a chunk. So the thing is, I remember that the people we were in partnership with for that actually refused to contribute into paying that particular resource. So yeah, I was left to pay 10 million bob, because ideally, they said investors don't even know us. They know SK. So Arios, that was a big one. So,
Sorry to hear.
so yeah, so
Sorry
yeah,
to hear.
so
Yeah.
that was a giant, but it, without a doubt, gave me the element of just being able to look at it and say, okay, they can take your fruit, but they cannot take your fruitfulness. So I had to be creative. I had to be innovative. So a year later, I was able to pay the 10 million plus interest, and that taught me an element of, there's a principle that Socrates says, whoever teaches people how to die has taught them how to live. It's the principle is teaching us how to face our fears. And when your fear cannot take a hold of you, then you are liberated, because now you're not a slave to the fear anymore, but now you're coming from a place of knowing that fruitfulness resides inside of you. The same thing you did to rise. If you fall, rise back again. And there's something interesting about just overcoming that fear of failure. So right now, yeah, without a doubt, I'm looking at failure completely different. And I had to deal as well with the psychology of saying one bad partnership does not mean that I shouldn't do business. So I've had many giants to face. The last giants probably I could mention is wanting to do a power plant, 40 megawatts of power, and you're looking at this project and you're thinking, okay, how do you get 40 megawatts of power? But someone said, if your dream is not scary to you, then it's not big enough. So we went out and we faced Ministry of Energy and Petroleum and told them, hey, I want to do 40 megawatts of power, knowing very clear that there was only one problem. We just didn't have 5 billion to do the project. But as well, following the principle that says, in the kingdom, you don't seek to own, you seek to access. Because what you own, you protect. What you access is protected. So that was a big giant, to be able to even sit down with people and tell them, guess what? We actually do want to start a power plant. It sounds ridiculous, you know, but hey, you brace yourself, you put your head up, and you stand on it. And I'm glad to see the progressions that we have been able to make purely from that point of view. So courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is doing it while you're afraid anyway. And that's something that I definitely celebrate looking back. So they're still giants. Every day you stand and you put your heart to something. Announcing things is definitely normally the scary part, because as humans we've been taught that failing is embarrassing, failing is humiliating, but it's a limiting belief that we have in our minds. Nonetheless, if only we can be able, as Socrates said, learn how to die, then we have learned how to live. So some of my giants right there. Apart from business, a few giants, of course, getting a child for the first time, being a father, as you mentioned on Father's Day, not knowing how this thing works, and and you just face it, and facing it is always rewarding. Not facing it is the hard part, because there's a survey. I don't know whether you've ever heard of the deathbed survey. There's a survey done while people are dying. So a survey has been done, and they've realized that people are saying exact same thing. So they took many people, and there was a deathbed survey done. And in the deathbed survey, people have been saying three things. Number one, if I would do it all over again, what would you do different? They say, I would read more. Number two, I would risk more. Number three, I would spend more time with family. So I would read more, I would risk more, and number three, I would spend more time with family. So the risking more is a very interesting part, because so many people are forfeiting risks. And there's something that Shakespeare said. He said, our doubts are traitors that make us lose the good we might often win by fearing to attempt. And I think that's a very interesting perspective to look at things from.
Amazing. That is amazing, SK. Speaking of deathbed, you know, last week, you remember I did that, one of my favorite quotes that I've acquired, you can hear me over the years, is it's by Les Brown, when he says the graveyard is one of the richest place. And I think we are the ones who make it, you know, one of the most richest place, with all these ideas we never implemented, all the risk we never took. And of course, it's never slaying giants. It's not the easiest thing. And that brings me to the next question. You know, what advice would you give? Some of us in this forum are, you know, starting up into entrepreneurship. And I know the topic close to, you know, my heart, because I don't know if I shared last time, every day when I'm in the office, I receive at least over 20 CVs. And sometimes you look at these guys and you wonder, my God, they are so gifted, so talented. So the only solution that we can give right now is obviously turning more, you know, turning more entrepreneurs, turning more entrepreneurs, actually promoting entrepreneurship, because it has a solution to it. So that brings me to my question of, what advice would you give? You know, I mean, it's obviously you were not born knowing how to slay giants, you know, you just had to face them head on. What worked for you, you know, at that very early age, because you're a musician at a very early age. I remember I saw on YouTube one of your stories, how you got this mega deal with some American record deal company, and how you risked it all. Even going to the embassy was madness, you know. I mean, I've gone to the embassies a million times, you know, but I mean, that was madness, you and your colleague. So how did you, were you born like this? Were you born knowing how to slay the giants? Or is it a technique? Do you like have a breathing technique or some magic you do? How would you, what would your advice be to a young entrepreneur that is trying to go and, you know, there's also this myth, yeah? In our culture, sometimes, you know, people, you know, when you even talk to some of your friends or family members, they'll tell you, hey, in my family, man, you know, we were not cut out to, you know, we were cut out for employment. Or when you speak to your peers, you know, they tell you, man, that business is not the way to go. First of all, we have COVID-19 and all these other things. You're too young.
Yeah.
What would your advice be in those terms? What would your advice be? You know, how do you actually head on and say, you know what, I can do this? Of course, based on research. I know my colleagues, in the other days, we've had topics about in the lines of, you know, research before you get into your business. But I think the courage is more important.
Correct. I see someone asking what Shakespeare said as I answer that question. So Shakespeare said, our doubts are traitors that make us lose the good we might often win by fearing to attempt. Our doubts are traitors that make us lose the good we might often win by fearing to attempt. Coming to your question, I would say, what advice would I give an entrepreneur? What advice would I give someone from this particular perspective? I realized, okay, number one, there is no magic, there is all that. Nonetheless, there could be a technique. So for me, I realized that speed is of essence. There's a principle that says, when you think long, you think wrong. And it's a psychological state that we all have to look at. When you think long, you think wrong. As number one, the human mind has a window, and the window in the human mind is a 5-second window that allows a human being basically to act from conviction. And conviction is most of the time looked at as an instinct. So acting from conviction is borrowing from your core values, your beliefs, your truths. When you have a truth inside of you, the truth will jump out when there is a decision to be made. So, but there's normally a 5-second delay window. And this is the thing. Within the 5 seconds, there is a verse in the Bible that says, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. The reason why it's that way, because they say psychologically, from a human mind perspective, after 5 minutes, when your yes is not based from your truth, then you give birth to a maybe. And your maybe grows into a doubt. Your doubt becomes, like Shakespeare says, a traitor that causes us to lose what we might have won by fearing to attempt. So they say there's a decisioning ritual. And the decisioning ritual is, sometimes people say, gut feeling. But a decisioning ritual is, while you're getting, let's say, into a meeting, while you're getting into, you align yourself to your truths. If your truth is integrity, then if someone, as an example, throws in a conversation to bribe, there's that window that normally a human has, and it's a 5-second window. And that's the window that says, you think long, you think wrong, because you know the truth, and the truth is simple. So we say life is about discipline. Discipline is about accountability. Accountability is about the truth, yet humans cannot handle the truth. If life is about discipline, the first person to account you on that discipline is your core values, your truths. And therefore, it's possible to be able to align to the technique of a 5-second window. Because beyond the 5-second window, they say, then you get into a maybe window. And maybe bats doubt. Then I want to throw in another one. They as well say psychologically that we we have conviction when we want to do something. Let's say it's a business and you want to do it, but conviction has a short shelf life. And they say conviction normally has at most a 24-hour shelf life. Have you ever dreamt and you wake up in the morning and you're so convinced about the thing that you dreamt, but you chill to tell someone in the afternoon and you're like, okay, it doesn't really sound the way it was in the morning, because conviction has a window. And the idea of conviction window is to be able to implement before the conviction window fades out. So the conviction window lasts as the most it lasts is 24 hours. So that's why they say when you wake up in the morning, wake up to a notepad. If you have an idea, write it down, because 24 hours later, you'll try to tell someone about this idea and it just doesn't feel the same anymore because the conviction is fading. So then speed therefore comes back. You remember, think long, you think wrong. Now speeds come back, where we say now execution at the speed of clarity. If it's clear and you're convicted, execute it. Because if you don't execute it, then what happens is you doubt, you pause, you procrastinate, you freeze, and you now enter into analysis paralysis. Now you're trying to say, probably I need to research it more. Probably I need to think about it. So this is how personally I do it. For me, when I'm convicted about something, the first thing I want to do is go back to that element of accountability. I want to call someone and tell them, hey, we are planning to go into this space. Hold me accountable because we want to do it this way while the conviction is fresh. Because the next day, I won't do it. I promise you I won't do it. So for me, that is very important, to be able to want to do something, move with speed, record it, write it down. And normally I would call the team that morning. I tell the team, we need to meet this morning. So I remember there's a time that we had to release some of our assets. And we are looking at the logistics space. And looking at the logistics space, I could look at different trends across the world. I could look at how things were going, and I felt that something is, anyway, I don't know how, but I felt like something is about to change, something about to change. Having these trucks will be a liability. And I'm writing it down and I'm thinking, okay, I just need the team to come. We meet first thing in the morning. I tell them with this fresh conviction that it's time to drop the physical assets, the hardware, and cross over into software, and now go into logistics in terms of delivery services and cab hailing. And I remember just sitting down with the team and telling the team, yeah, this is the conviction currently, and therefore, for this reason, we are dropping some assets. We dropped about 7 trucks at once. And yeah, execution at the speed of clarity. So right now we are looking back and we are like, Fuchs, we're glad we didn't have our truck drivers stuck in Namanga border or somewhere out there at this particular time of COVID crisis. I hope it makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense. In fact, I've seen a question here. Someone is asking, Nina is asking, how do you distinguish between conviction and emotions? You know, some of us, like I am so passionate, and sometimes I could be so passionate, and, you know, sometimes I think there's a thin line between the two. When you're very passionate and emotional, then on this side, there's also conviction, and of course, looking at your reality.
Yeah, very true. Conviction is aligned is aligned to truths, but emotion is aligned to your feelings. So they say there are 2 faculties of the mind. There's a conscious mind, and there's consciousness, and there's awareness. So let's start with awareness. Awareness is where we make decisions based on our 5 common senses, or a few others that are not common. So I saw it, I heard it, I touched it, I experienced it, therefore I reacted to it. So it's not a proactive action, it's a reactive action. And every time that we make decisions based on awareness, then we normally make decisions that are influenced. There's a principle in the market. Tell me when I get, tell me when I get complicated. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. But there's a principle in the market. In the market, there are two instruments that work very well. In the market, there are instruments that never fail. And this instrument have been used for a long time, ever since the market started in ancient history. And these two instruments, number one instrument is greed, and number two instrument is fear. So the principle says when greed or fear is injected into the human mind, they become irrational. When greed or fear is injected into the human mind, they become irrational. So basically means that greed and fear are actually manufactured products. So let me give you an example. Why is it that the highest paid slot on TV is actually news time? News time is called prime time because the space is premium. Why is it premium? Because the way media was created to have news to be one of the places that you inject the most fear. Make sense?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So news is the place where you see who was stabbed today in the eye, who was eaten by a dog, and all those things that have nothing to do with anything. And the intention of news, the reason why it's always been prime, is because at that point of fear, then you become irrational. And when you're irrational, that's the perfect time to throw an advert because people think they're thinking, even though someone actually made them think that they're thinking.
Yeah.
Make sense?
You remind me, when people are afraid is when also they overheat, yeah? Like now, COVID times, people are just eating.
Yes, yes. And it's that way simply because it's a product in the market. Greed is a product and fear is a product. When people are fearful, people spend. That's why they say news is manufactured. They say buy the rumor, sell the news. So by the time someone is watching the news to make decisions, you're late. The idea is to make the decision so that it makes the news. So looking at it that way, then we appreciate that fear is a great product. So people are looking at COVID at this particular time, and the question is COVID manufactured or is COVID organic? It may be either, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a high element of COVID that is manufactured because the fear of COVID is making good business. Yeah. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And we know there are people who are making money, millions, billions. Yeah, I think it could be both ways. I have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. It makes sense. Economically, COVID is making perfect sense. I'm telling you, this is the golden age purely because it's too good. It's more than flukes. You get? Yeah. So when you look at it from this point of view, then you see the benefit of fear. When there is fear in a country, let's say an election year, when it's an election year, normally we get a huge inflow of foreign direct investment. Huge inflow. Why is that so? It's so because when we come to election year, humans have a tendency to think that it's the end of the world,
right?
And that the country is burning, and that's the time where all prices become cheap, and everyone comes and buys cheap. It's like a miracle every 4 years, especially in Kenya. And right now at a COVID period, it's a shopping spree for people who are liquid. People are buying everything. People are buying.
It's a buyer's market.
It's a buyer's market.
Mm.
And you see, the market needs that sentiment of fear.
Mm.
So if the sentiment of fear is so vital in a market, then would we be wrong to assume that someone can as well manufacture it or
Yes.
exaggerate it
Mm.
purely for economic benefit? So that's
Yeah.
fear. But greed
Mm.
at the same time is an instrument in the market that is also manufactured. And greed is important because in a market, when greed is injected as well, people become irrational. And how does greed work in a market? Greed works in a market in this way. When greed is injected, people gamble. When greed is injected, people bet. People 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 feel confident in a false way. When greed is injected, people become a bit careless, and it works. It works big time. Currently in Africa, we have a huge betting culture that has just been born. It's interesting because this is the way you inject greed into a society. Basically, print a huge check, a gigantic check, and just write whoever's name and how much
Hi,
they've won.
SK.
Take a photo. Yeah.
I lost you for a second.
Okay. Can I repeat that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much clearer now.
Okay. Okay. So I'm saying greed is as well an instrument
Hi.
in the market. Yeah. I can hear you.
Okay, now
I don't
you're
know whether
clear.
it's mine or yours.
Now you're
Yeah.
clear. Yeah, you know you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, when greed is injected, people as well benefit big time as an economy. The economy is built that way. So when people are greedy, how do you inject? The basic way of injecting greed into a society is basically printing a gigantic check, write 100, whatever the amount is. Take someone who's average or average looking, and basically hand them the check. That works forever. It's never failed. And the society is full of greed, and they jump in and gamble all the way to kingdom come. So that's awareness. Awareness is saying,
Awesome. SK.
uh-huh,
Hi, SK.
yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, Maggie.
Hi, SK.
Uh-huh.
Maggie, we can hear you, but I think you're having a
Hi,
challenge
SK.
hearing. Maggie,
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
I think you're having a challenge
It's
hearing.
okay. All right.
Okay.
SK, I had one more question. So someone has posted directly a direct question to me asking you, one of the biggest giants that new entrepreneurs, startups face is procrastination. How did you deal with it in your past experience?
Okay. If anyone can't hear me, kindly
Okay, much
text on
clearer
the
now.
chat. Yeah, if anyone can't
Yes.
hear me, you can text on the chat box so that I know. Then
Okay.
I can repeat. Sorry. Kindly repeat the question.
So sorry, SK. Someone is asking, I think it's on my end. I'm so sorry. Someone has DM me. I'm so sorry, guys. I think it's on my end. SK, the question that has come on my DM is, one of the biggest giants people have to face, especially when they're starting out, is procrastination. You know, start next week, I'll start next year, I'll start after COVID. How did you deal with it in your world?
Yeah. For me, I had to learn it the hard way. For me, I had to learn by losing. So you think of something, you feel it's something that you would be able to do, then you procrastinate. Then when you go to the market, you find someone actually did it. There's something interesting about ideas. Ideas. I don't want to say ideas are worthless, but I want to say ideas are worth less. Yeah, but they're not worthless. Yeah, so they're worth little, because the intention is not to create ideas. The intention is to implement ideas. It's just like the way people talk about cash, and they say cash is king, but it's not really true. Cash flow is king. So so ideas are worth less when you look at that context of business, because the attribute is to be an implementer, a chronic implementer, as opposed to a chronic idea generator. Because the truth is, most of the time we see it from a point of we have to be unique, we have to be special, but we honestly don't have to. Yeah, the idea is not being special. The idea is just solving a problem that is out in the market. If the problem is to serve people food, then we just serve people food. We don't have to be special in serving people food. So as well, the same thing. For me, I had to learn from losing. And therefore, what I would encourage someone who's procrastinating, procrastination is not a cause. Procrastination is an effect. So the question is, what's the cause to procrastination? So I would want to say there are many causes, but I wanted to highlight one cause. And one cause is something we call imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is being in a position where you have all facts that are saying you're the guy for the job, but you have an intrinsic belief that you're not good enough for the job. And that's a very common thing. People would walk away from promotions purely because they don't believe they're the guy for the job. And an imposter syndrome would hit you in this way. Number one, you'd have self-doubt. Yeah. Number two, you'd drag your feet, you'd procrastinate. Number three, you'd self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is putting such self-sabotage is putting such a high goal for yourself, knowing that you'll clearly fail, only to be able to punish yourself. It's crazy how, as humans, you can forgive everyone else, but you'll be the last one to forgive your own self. Because you're coming from a point of when you have an imposter syndrome, you feel like you're fraudulent, and therefore you don't have self-compassion. When you don't have self-compassion, then you'll forgive the world but not yourself. And that is a big cause of procrastination, where you feel like there's a bouncer out.
Amazing.
Will come in
good
and
one
say,
very good one.
You can be a CEO. Yeah.
Now, SK, I think we can take a few more questions. I would encourage people to post, to just send questions on the chat room, so that, because of the interest of time, I know we can go on and on and on. This topic is so dear, and it's quite wide. So guys, let me encourage you, if you can unmute yourself, can be bold enough to ask a question. The floor is open now. But the last thing I would want to ask, the parting shot for you, SK, as you close. I know at some point at a very early age, you had this deal where you saw millions with your eyes, traveled and moved back home and came with nothing. How did you dust yourself off, for lack of a better word, and transition from music to entrepreneurship? That's what daredevils do. So how did you do it?
Yeah, it's true. There was a transition there. You see, there's a principle that says evolve or die. When it's that way, it's completely harsh, because you don't want to die. Then you're forced to evolve. So yes, I was a musician, and I saw a few things that were misaligned. Number one, as a musician, for me, I thought, okay, I'll be a musician, then happily ever after is what I'm running for. So I go into this industry. I do all I can to get a breakthrough. So then I realized, okay, the ground is a bit different because there are cartels. All these people who you thought that would be supportive as a support system in the industry, then you realize, okay, it's a bit different. So then you have to create your own infrastructure. Infrastructure number one, for me, it was very difficult to produce music because I couldn't afford. So the first solution was basically to become a producer, look for a way to produce music. So I was fortunate to get a partner who was passionate about the same thing. So we looked for a software and basically started teaching ourselves how to produce. Then we wanted the music to be played. So people wouldn't play our music. So people were saying, unless you create a music video, we can't play you. So we just had to produce music videos. Then people wouldn't play our music videos because we realized, oh, they're actually cartels. We didn't know how it works. So we thought, okay, let's do the same thing. If no one can play our music, let's get on TV and start playing our music. So we get on TV and start playing our music and everyone else who's not being played. Then we get to a place where we realize, okay, TV stations are now paying for the TV shows, but now they are paying in arrears, 100 days in arrears. And we realize, okay, let's go to the banks. Let's ask the banks to lend us money so that we survive before we get paid. Banks wouldn't touch us. We said, okay, instead of competing, create same exact concept. We said, let's start a lending house. So we start a lending house and we start lending, and we get to a point where we want to grow bigger. And we start visiting local investors and institutional investors from different countries. So they kept telling us we are small. Okay, we hit a wall again. Then we say, okay, so if you won't touch us because we are small, at that particular point they were saying, if you're not looking for 100 million Kenyan or $1 million, then we can't basically touch you. So we thought, okay, instead of competing, create. It's time now to sell this business. So we sold that business to build a bigger business. And we built now an investment company, a private equity firm. And for that, we wanted to be able to now go in and do energy, communication, since we were in that, and logistics. And as we keep going, we realize that that's the only way to grow. You hit a wall, you innovate. You hit a wall again, you innovate. And for us, that's basically the journey of just being able to evolve, not necessarily by choice, but by circumstance. Until you get to a point, then you realize we changed our way of doing business. We used to do 1-year plans. Then we got to a place where we saw 1 year doesn't work. 1 year is just too long. So we changed, and to this day, we normally do 90-day strategies. So 90-day strategies, after 90 days, we basically, review the strategy, do a new 90-day strategy. And come to think of it, that has really helped us, especially in such a time where in a COVID period, the short strategies have really been able to come in handy. So in COVID, we've done a whole new 90-day strategy. So we keep at it, and we are just doing it from learning from the challenges on the ground. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think, SK, I can open the floor to questions, but
Yes.
even as we wait for questions, guys, please, this is your window of questions. If you can be bold enough to unmute yourself. I've actually shut down my video because the bandwidth was very poor.
Okay.
But I'm here. I'm very excited to hear your side of things from an entrepreneur side. Because last time I keep saying that one of the challenge we have in Kenya, and maybe from my global experience, is that we see entrepreneurs that are probably much older than you that have done so well for themselves, but people don't get to hear the ugly side of the giants they've had to face, and even some of the challenges. So, you know, as a young entrepreneur, most people think, oh, business is just for a few, chosen few, or those guys
Correct.
made their money, so, you know, or they inherited wealth, but you've made your money from, you know, a lot of hard work. So we salute you, we appreciate you,
Asante.
even being vulnerable to share some of the giants you've had to face, yeah? So we are very grateful. Guys, I would want to take a few questions. Don, you look like you have a question.
I just wanted to ask SK, were you in the same class with Robert Kiyosaki? Because you sound like you went to the same school of hustlers and entrepreneurship, where fear is born, but fruitfulness is always born.
I love that. Rich dad, poor
I
dad. Yours is,
I wish
your dad
I
was
was.
what? Rich pastor, no,
What-
poor pastor. No,
Was-
dreads pastor.
You
Was-
share a
yeah.
lot of principles, because he's also talking a lot about the capitalistic systems that currently, if you don't evolve, you die. It becomes a very interesting perspective, but also fear is a big factor that has always been injected into the system, into the, you know, into the stock exchanges globally, where your shares go down, you're left with the papers. So the attitude of our current breed of entrepreneurs is patience, is something that is not on their vocabulary. And when they see you, SK, after the last 20 years of toiling, nobody wants to wait for 20 years to succeed. How do you encourage them to wake up every day seeing the fears, the anxiety, the subliminal, you know, advertisement of what wealth should like, but the hands that have seen the sweat, blood, and tears? How do we inject that attitude into the entrepreneurs? Because the first 5 years of entrepreneurship, you die and you're forgotten.
Yeah.
Wow, Don,
Yeah, so
thank
true.
you. Amazing question. Over
Thank
to
you.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. Thanks, Don. I think that's such a great one, because there's a principle that says overnight success only takes 20 years. So, so when you look at it, then we have to, without a doubt, play a long game. Long game is very unpopular because everyone wants to have a quick win. Unfortunately, quick wins have a category, and that category is very crowded. When you look at entrepreneurs today, the best thing we would be able to tell entrepreneurs is whether you play a long game or a short game, you'll spend the time anyway. You get, either you want to wait 4 years to have something mature, you'll live the 4 years anyway. So you'd rather just choose to look at it from that point of view. The other thing is, enterprise is something that needs partners, and partners are coming from a place of saying that for us to be able to partner with someone, we want you to be at a place of bankability. So Maggie can attest, in global finance, everyone will keep speaking about bankability. And the question is, what is this bankability that everyone is talking about? Bankability in the simplest format is, number one, people do not want to do the dirty work. And the dirty work would be falling with you, you know, researching, trying, and you fail. Because enterprise has phases. Phase one of enterprise is where, number one, you have the concept, the idea. Remember, an idea is worth less. It's not worthless, but it's worth less because it's not sufficient for you to be bankable. That's number one. So after the idea, then you have to prove, as part of bankability, that you are not just an idea person, because ideas, you see, there are only so many original ideas. And sometimes we work so hard to look for an original, but no one cares for originality. People just get to grow their money. If your concept can grow their money, whether it's original or not, really makes no difference. So you need to come out as an implementer. People need to say, hey, this guy is an implementer. It's not just a person who speaks. Then now you have to go in and There are people who are saying, for you to be bankable, I want you to tell me about your failures. There are people who will not touch you if you have not failed. And I found that very encouraging. Going with our business, then you find people who are saying, okay, have you failed before? Can you tell me about your failures? Because if you haven't failed, I can't touch you. You'll be too arrogant. Yeah. Because you think you know, yet you don't know. So the other thing about bankability is as well, people want to see that you have been able to prove it, do it, fail, and let's see. And you have been able to now come to a place where you can now appreciate when a partner comes in to help you scale the business. So bankability takes time. For us, we have our own bankability formula that we created. We've always wanted to share it. Sometimes we teach it in our class. At first, I thought everyone has a bankability formula, but I'll just paraphrase ours, hoping that it will help. Number one, we have defending the brand. Defending the brand is, what is it that you want to do? What is it called? How does it look? How does it feel? When people meet this brand, how do they associate with it? And I can't tell you how priceless that is, because it's only God who looks at the heart. Humans will actually judge you by the outward appearance. So unless you're packaged well, unless your business is packaged well, I promise you,
So true.
it'll be
So
unfortunate.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's not give people the credit that we give God.
Yeah.
People look at the outward appearance. So defending the brand is without a doubt a huge deal. The second one we go and do, we call it defending demand. People want to come in and say, it's bankable. Why? Because you have found demand out there. So defending demand to us is going out there, and before we actually launch out a business, go out there and look for contracts that are not less than 1 year, contracts that can be able to have someone say, I will give you business for the next 5 years, for the next 2 years. There are some contracts that we have, especially for rooftop solar, that are 15-year contracts, 20-year contracts. It's interesting because think of it that you lock a client for 15 years, 20 years. Anyway, it sounds unusual, but it's a thing. You lock for 20 years or 15 years. And for the 15 years, all you have to do is focus on serving this particular client as opposed to running after clients. For us, we created that because that's defending demand. And people respond to demand. When you say, I have a market and the market is right here, this is a contract to show that these guys will buy for me for the next 5 years. And I have 15 of these clients. You don't ever need to go out there look for clients for the next 5 years. For us, it makes sense. And that's bankability. The next one is defending margins. How can we keep the quality but spend less in creating this particular product? If the product is costing us, let's assume the product is selling, it's a product that is selling for 10 shillings Kenyan, or let's assume even $1. What can we do so that when we sell it, we are not always keeping 2 cents of the dollar? What can we do so that we keep 4 cents of the dollar? It's an art by itself. And in this art, then you have to learn how to prune the tree. Prune the tree, cut what you don't need. Because unless you prune the tree, you won't keep the tree. So that's an important thing. That you just know that there's a principle in trading that says, cut the losers, keep the winners. It's brutal, but it's true. Yeah. So if it's not changing your quality of life, if it's not changing your bottom line, then lose it. Yeah. If what you're doing is squandering your time and your money, drop it. It's a liability without a doubt. It's a loser. Cut the losers, keep the winners.
Keep the winners.
It's unfortunate that it sounds the way it sounds, but unless it sounds this way, then it won't make you anything. So the next one after defending your margins is basically now getting to a point of scaling. When you're ready to scale, because you've known how to do this $1 product at 3 cents, but yet still defend your brand, have the best quality, have the look and feel the way it ought to be, then you've cracked it. Then now you're bankable. You're ready to scale. And scaling, this is where now investors come in. Investors come in to help you do multiples. You used to do 1x. They come and help you do 10x. And that's biblical. Yeah. Subdue, take dominion. That's the process of bankability.
Yeah.
Unless you subdue and take dominion of your own craft, no one will come to help you to scale. So subdue, take dominion, be fruitful is proof that I'm bankable. Then investors come to help you multiply.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are 3 kinds of people in the ecosystem of economics. Number 1 is people who earn money. That's everyone. It's really not a miracle nowadays to earn money. Number 2 is people who manage money. People who believe that holding money is actually growing money. Anyway, that's a big debate because savings has 2 sides. There's saving as a holder and there's saving as an accumulator so that you may be able to invest to grow money. So there's people who manage money. People who manage money are people, anyway, it's a whole topic. But there are people who multiply money. People who multiply money now are scarce. And those are the people who are called bankable people. And those are the people that every investor is looking for because everyone wants to grow their money. And because we have depleting resources, energy is a depleting resource. Time is a depleting resource. People are getting to a place where there is more for their time than what they can do. So they are looking for passive ways of multiplying their money. And without a doubt, the finance space, I was in a conference that was called Too Much Money Chasing After Too Few Deals. That's even strange on its own. Too much money chasing after too few deals. That basically means there's so much money, but financiers are desperate to find bankable deals. So we meet a lot of financiers. So this week we've met a few financiers from a few places. I'll give a story of a Norwegian fund that was in the office this week. So this fund, so we are talking and they're saying, SK, it's just so frustrating to be in Kenya, period. Not even right now, period. So I'm like, why? What does that even mean? So he says, because we hear Africa rising, we hear all these narratives, then we come into Kenya, we are coming ready to plow money into this ecosystem. Then we find that there are no bankable deals. Make sense? Yeah. So that's a huge, huge problem, that there's money coming in and the money has nowhere to place deal-wise. So you find probably there's one deal that comes up and you find 15 companies are fighting for this thing. Java as a deal came up. There was 7 companies from 7 different countries that were fighting for that one deal. Naivas, there were 15 companies fighting for that one deal. So the people fighting are more than the deals on the ground. That's a very strange thing. And that's my challenge to entrepreneurs. We have to be bankable. And I've just told you how, for us, we created the template for bankability. I hope I didn't complicate the conversation.
No,
but I'm just trying to challenge us to see what's out there.
Yeah, awesome. I love that explanation because it can apply in any sector. And talking about bankability, I do not even want to go to that topic because that's what I do for a living. So I think some people will approach you directly, SK, at some point, because this can be a very long conversation, and it's awesome because numbers don't lie. Someone
Yes.
is asking here, SK, and I don't know if you can answer in a minute, because I have a few
Okay.
questions coming up here. I've seen
I-
Patience is asking, how do you cultivate a growth mindset when we've grown up with a very fixed mindset? Very interesting.
I see.
We've
Yeah.
grown up with this rigid mindset. So how do you cultivate it? And I believe there's
Yeah.
a bit of even the people you hang around with, because I've seen this quote many times. I think in some of the matatus as you drive, they say,
Yeah.
if you hang around 5 SKs, you'll be the 5th. Yeah. If you
Yeah,
hang
it's
around
true.
5, negative-minded people, you'll be the 6th. Yeah.
Yes,
So
correct.
I think there's a bit of also surround yourself with people who actually are going places. Because right now, I will tell you for free, and I think all of us can agree, there's a lot of negativity. Even to be in this session tonight, yeah, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
effort. And there are people out there, spreading negative things. You can't do this, you can't do that, you
Yeah,
can't start a
true.
business. Who does that? But people are starting. I was in the mall today. I was in the mall today and I saw some guy who has started a branding company. Yeah, and he started it was a very small kiosk the last time I visited. So people are doing sectors that are thriving. So good question there. I don't know what your
Yeah,
comment would be. The mindset.
correct. About the mindset of growth.
Yes.
The mindset of growth is coming from a place of, it's actually a mandate. It's actually a mandate, as we mentioned: subdue, take dominion, be fruitful. Be fruitful is bankability, yeah, and then multiply. Multiply now is a mandate. Look at a good example where he says the kingdom of God is likened unto a man a master who gave talents out. And you look at the talents that were given. Someone was given 1, someone was given 2 and 5. And the most interesting part is we normally look at the reaction of the master to the guy who didn't multiply. Yeah. And he says a few things. He says, "You wicked and perverse servant." That's hard. That's heavy. Yeah. If wicked and perverse purely because I didn't grow, not because I lost. Yeah. Purely because I didn't grow. Then you find that the master is very growth oriented, because the idea is not growing is basically underutilizing or sabotaging the fruitfulness that is in that particular seed. So the potential, yeah, sabotaging the potential that was on that particular talent was the same, because it's basically like purely it's like taking life, yeah, and taking life from this point of view is the question is, why do we grow money? We grow money for 2 reasons. Number one, we grow money for the reasons are cut down in 2. Number one, we grow money so that we change the quality of our lives. The quality of our lives fall into this. Quality of our life is, we speak about the spiritual person, and the spiritual person is coming from that place of conviction. What's your value system? What's your conviction? What's your value base? What are the things you can't do? What are the things you can do? That comes from a spiritual conviction. Then we move from social. A social conviction is a responsibility that we have to a society. Number one, to present ourselves as a mirror. That's why they say kio yeah, kio cha jamii. Yeah. As a mirror.
Yes.
Yeah. Because unless we are a mirror, the human mind is built to refer, and we have to be mirrors who will be referred to. And that's why they say between 0 and 24 years, people learn through reference. So people learn through reference.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Exactly. That's 0 to 25. That's how humans learn. But from 25, people learn through trauma. You get? So if people learn through trauma, then we have to realize that we are coming from a place of realizing that we are a mirror. So the first intention of growing money is affecting your quality of life. Because your quality of life is you, your society, that your family and all. And it's important. Then the economy. How do you help people unless yourself you're being helped? Yeah. It's like that thing they say in planes. That you save you first, then save the baby.
You can give
then save the baby. Exactly. So when we come to this particular place, then we have to look at growth as something so practical. We are leading a generation that listens with their eyes. So this is a generation that wants to know, by the way, Maggie, where have you parked? You get? Unless they see where you have parked, then they have not yet qualified you sufficient.
Imagine.
Speak to them. So you have to earn the right to speak to them by having fruits. So then that's number one, why we have to grow money. And number two, the reason why we have to grow money is to be able to transform lives. To transform lives is priceless. It's important because we are now in a Commonwealth state. And when we think Commonwealth says that the game is not over until everyone wins. And that's why such a forum is here. The forum is here because everyone has to win. It's not enough for one person to win. Because the game that has been played all through a capitalistic mindset is a zero-sum game. One has to win for one to lose. But now we are coming from a Commonwealth point of view, where the game is not over until we all win. How do we all win? Unless we all share. Because it's an access economy. We are accessing from each other. We are accessing from our failures, and we are learning to grow together. And for me, it's a long answer, but that's why we must grow money.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, SK. I think I'll take one last question before Esther kills me. We'll stop at exactly 9:02 if everyone is okay with that. I've seen another question from someone is asking, how do you test eligibility of an idea without a point of reference prior to banking it? Which is very tricky.
It is. I can only say what we do. Different people do different things. For us, we have a model that we use, and our model is called fail fast, fail quickly. So you remember we are moving at the speed of clarity. If we are moving at the speed of clarity, we just want to be clear that this is what putting resources towards. So we normally have a sequence. The first sequence is create. So create the idea. The idea is not sufficient. So number one is create. Number two is release. So when you release, you harvest two things. Number one, you harvest critics and you harvest compliments. So the intention of the two is to be able to pick out the truth from both the critics and the compliments. So then the truth may be hurtful, but it's just the truth. What to do? And the truth is the truth. So you take both, then you go back and remold. You mold back the second time. So you take the truth and you take the hate and you take the love and you mold it to a second product. Then you release the second product. The intention of releasing the second product is that if the love is more than the hate, then we move on with it. If the hate is more than the love, we drop it.
That sounds like a litmus paper, test.
We just had to do that.
Because
we were just facing. You have to have a formula. Otherwise, it becomes a guessing game.
Yeah, amazing. SK, I don't think we can ever get enough of these sessions. And I love the way you've done it today because there's a lot of questions coming through. I think we'll collate the others that I might have missed. And then I think perhaps we can send them to you and you can reach out directly. SK, do you want to take it offline? People are welcoming you again. I don't think people have heard enough of you. So we can
I would
choose
want
a
to say
topic.
that I would want to say that I saw as well someone asked whether they can get where they can get this content. We created a channel. It's called Clean Money TV. So Clean Money TV, you can get we do TV. Content. Clean Money TV, yeah, on Facebook, on YouTube. We create content every day because of progressive learning. We've just come to realize that giving is the only way to receive, and we want to be part of that, because if only for us we had someone to give us direction, hopefully we would have gone a bit faster. We are still in the journey. We're still not where we want to be. But Clean Money TV, the essence is to be able to create content, invite people to give their insight as well. And the intention is basically at the end of the day,
I love that,
to grow together as a Commonwealth. So yeah, so I without a doubt, I would be happy to be as helpful as I can be. We started week 1, went to week 2.
We're on week 3 now.
Part 3. Yeah, without a doubt, it seems that part 4 is coming soon.
Coming soon. So I think we will take the topic. We always like the audience that are still left. We still have 45 people, and we honor your time, guys. Perhaps you can suggest a topic on entrepreneurship matters, and then we can pick it offline and we can discuss it next week. And feel free to send questions also so that we can also, try to cover as much within the 1 hour that we are given. Again, I want to respect your time, salute you guys. I know we have many global citizens all over there. I do not even know Uganda, Tanzania, you name it, others from the States. We respect your time, and we want to end here. But I think SK, with your permission, we can have one more session next week. God willing.
Without a doubt, yes.
Tuesday, a special edition. I want to remind guys that we still have a session on tomorrow on Wednesday and another one on Friday. So feel free, share these ideas, share what you've learned. There's a questionnaire that was sent earlier. Please also give us feedback. What are you hearing? What can we do better? What other topics do you want to hear? And then we can invite other guys to come and chime in. But we want to thank you again. Have a blessed night. Have a beautiful week, coming rest of the week, and stay safe. And to our fathers and our father figures, we salute you again, and let's do this.